The following is a presentation of the Championship Racing Network.
Crossed Flags, a racing podcast. It's your midweek fix for racing news and information. Brought to you by the Championship Racing Network. Now let's head trackside to join your hosts, Steve West and Matt Nicholson.
We officially welcome you into the last edition of Cross Flags, a racing podcast for the month of January 2026. Wow, this month has flown by, and could it go any faster? Because I don't know about you, Matt, but I'm flipping cold.
It's a little on the chilly side.
Glad to have you back. Know that the last time we did a big show about, week and a half ago, give or take, you were suffering from some throat problems. You actually got, correct me if I'm wrong, diagnosed with a form of laryngitis, or was it absolute lost voice, gone laryngitis?
It was a form of laryngitis. It was borderline losing voice laryngitis.
Gotcha. Okay.
So it was rough for a little while there.
Yeah. Well, we're glad to have you back. This is going to be a relatively short one because we want to make sure that we save your voice, because we do have a big show planned for this weekend. So be prepared for that, because a lot of stuff to talk about, including whether or not we actually get the 2026 NASCAR Cup Series season off to the start that NASCAR wants it to be at Bowman Gray Stadium. We'll talk about that coming up on Saturday. First things first, want to go back and want to look back at a couple of things here, and then one bit of news that, truth be told, hasn't been 100% confirmed yet, but a pretty good source is reporting it. Let's talk about the Rolex 24 hours here, and we don't often, truth be told, talk about it. We mention it mainly because there are usually Indycar guys who moonlight in there, a couple of NASCAR guys too, including this year AJ Allmendinger, who is a noted road course racer and enthusiast. I ended up watching this a pretty good amount over this weekend, and actually kind of just fell asleep with the TV on in the background, and as I would wake up, it continued to be that way. And I don't know what it is about Daytona. I don't know whether it's me being cursed or whether it's the track being cursed or whatever. But you and I have gone down there. We went down there for the Rolex 24 a couple of years ago. We've tried to do summer races. We've tried to do the Daytona 500. And for whatever purpose, I have yet to see an actual Cup Series race on Daytona International Speedway. And it's because it rains or weather or whatever, right?
Yeah, I've been lucky enough to see two.
Okay. Well, here's the thing. If we had gone down there this time, it would have been interrupted by weather again. Now, this is a road course. It's on the Daytona road course, so it's a little bit different, as they can run in the rain and in all kinds of weird conditions. But it was, I want to say, about maybe 9 o'clock, maybe not even that late, when a camera person for NBC Sports started realizing something, and they did a great camera shot looking up at the top of the grandstands to the light stands that are up there, and we noted fog starting to roll in. And this first picture that we're going to show you here with producer John, and thank him very much for getting all of this set and prepared, is going to give you an idea of how it began to look, and then we're going to bring you a couple of more pictures as we go along. So let's show you this first picture here and give you an idea of how it started. This is the beginnings. This is at night, Eastern time. These guys, again, they're going through the 2 trips around the clock, if you know the old analog face round clocks, right? And we're starting to see the fog here. Now, it's not really that big of a deal at this point in time, but it is something that as a racer, it is, one would think, a little eerie. And I sent you a text and I said, I'm kind of glad we didn't show up down at Daytona, because while the temperatures weren't all that bad, Matt, you and I both know this, and the vast majority of people know this as well. You get fog rolling in, and it doesn't matter what the temperature is, it automatically feels 5 to 10 degrees cooler, just like that.
It does. And then right there being at the Atlantic Ocean, it just really makes it worse.
Sure. So that's how it started. And I would say within, probably about an hour. John, give us the next picture here, would you? It looked like that. And I get it is. And I get this. You know, you're the racer, but you and I have talked about racers, especially road course specialists. They memorize the track. You can see them before the race, kind of sitting there, eyes closed, acting like they're holding a steering wheel, and they're literally visualizing the track almost inside their own virtual VR in their mind. They're in their mind's eye, and they're doing all the maneuvers, and they're steering around the track. So they're almost going around this track by memory at this point in time, until IMSA officials said, you know what? This is unsafe. We can't do this. So they bring out, and they called it this on the NBC Sports podcast, a safety car period, what we call a caution flag. And we would put the pace car out there in NASCAR terms. And you kind of sit and you wonder, how long are they actually going to do this? Or is there a way to red flag it? Turns out there's not, is there? You're not red flagging it for weather. The only reason you would red flag it is to what? Clear a major wreck?
Yeah, but when the clock starts in an endurance race, you really can't stop it.
Okay.
I can remember Le Mans a couple of years ago. There were some very, very heavy rains that went through France where the track is, and they just put the safety car out and let it just stayed running for the sake of the timed event.
Okay.
Now, this was more, they deemed it more of it was a safety issue because the spotters literally could not see pit road from the spotter stand at Daytona.
Yeah, which means they can't see anywhere. They can't really see the infield behind pit road. They certainly can't see the backstretch at Daytona. And you and I have been there, and we've seen that angle. You and I both know how far it is when you're looking from even the grandstands all the way back to the backstretch, much less them standing on top of the press box and trying to see all the way to the backstretch.
Right. So 7 hours and 120 laps later, the caution ended.
It was interesting to listen to some interviews because pit stop rules applied. You didn't lose a spot unless the car just absolutely had a massive problem on pit road. So they would come in, they'd change tires and or drivers and or fill up with gas as they needed to. And let's face it, you're not wearing out tires doing 60 miles an hour around Daytona in a purebred race car. It's just not happening. So really it was for fuel and changing drivers because the same rule still applied. Any particular driver, let's say we had a 3-car team of you, me, and John, and you happened to be out there when the safety car period began, you could sit in the car for as much as 4 hours because you're allowed to be in the car for as much as 4 hours in any 6-hour period. But after that, you got to get out of the car. That's the rules of the game.
Yeah, I recall, I think it was Will Power that did his stint. His entire stint overnight was under the caution car.
So then you start getting these drivers hopping out of the car. And of course, NBC Sports is doing their due diligence. By this point in time, it's solely on Peacock. But they're talking to some of these drivers that are getting out of the cars, and the drivers are asked, and I have to admit, I would be kind of curious to have an answer to the question as well. What's it like traveling around Daytona International Speedway's road course at the grand total of 60 miles an hour for, let's just put it at 4 hours? And more than one driver just flat out said, boring.
Yeah, I would lose my mind. Granted, I would be behind the harness and sitting in a seat, but I would lose my mind.
Sure, because you're not doing what you're there to do. You're not racing. You're just playing follow the leader at pace speed the whole time.
7 hours. That's pretty bad.
It lasted so long that the 2 pace cars that they have, which was a road going Porsche 911 GT3 and a more kind of road race car Porsche, I think it was what they call it, 962, I think.
Yeah.
They had to trade those guys out 3 times because the road cars were running out of gas at 60 miles an hour.
For fuel.
So
that's insane.
We start to get into the morning here, and after 7 hours, and producer John will bring up this next picture here, and you can tell that there's daylight now in the background, but there's still a good amount of fog. But this is right about the time IMSA started thinking, hey, we probably need to get back to green flag here fairly soon. And I don't think it was too long after this particular picture was taken that they actually did get back to green flag racing, and they were able to finish out the race. But the fog wasn't completely burned off when they got back to green flag racing. It was basically just enough, to go back to what you had mentioned before, for the spotters sitting on top of the press box at Daytona to be able to see the entire track.
Yeah, I think it was like right at 6 a.m. Eastern, they went back green, and then they finished out the remainder of the race.
So like you said, 7 hours of running at 60 miles an hour, just twiddling your thumbs and biding your time, trying to get to the point where you can get back to actual racing. And let's face it, the fastest division, the GTP division, those cars can do about 200 miles an hour on Daytona in its road course form. That's how fast these cars are. I can imagine that the cars were probably like, why can't I go faster? The drivers certainly know they could do much faster. As a driver, and I'm just going to put you in under any pace car condition, it really doesn't matter because I know you've run laps under pace conditions. If it's an extended period of time, what's going through your head?
It's really a myriad of things that's going through your mind. Like, okay, am I starting outside, inside? Who have I got around me? What's their first move? What's my first move? Things like that.
We appreciate your pup involving themselves in our podcast. Don't worry about it. And I honestly have to say, I cannot remember whether or not they restarted in single file formation. I think they did, as opposed to double file.
It was single.
So, but you're still trying to be aware of the cars that are in front of you, the cars that are, if that's applicable, if you're the leader, obviously you don't have to worry about that, but you have to worry about the vehicles that are behind you. I imagine you're running off a checklist here. But if you know that you're in for the long haul here and you're not going to be going green flag racing, probably not on your stint, now what are you doing?
You're just you're kind of really thinking ahead.
Okay.
Of like, okay, if we go green here, if we're going green, you're running that checklist. Who's in front of me? Who's behind me? What may be their first move? Are they going to go outside? Are they going to go inside? If I'm leading, I got to make sure I launch in the restart zone where I don't get penalized. I don't launch too early. It's I could go for days.
I can only imagine, but at some point in time, you kind of run out of things to do on the checklist, and now you're just stuck, just spinning a steering wheel doing 60 miles an hour.
Yep.
Wow.
Exactly.
Unreal. Well, congratulations to them. Congratulations to the winners, Porsche Penske Motorsport. 3rd year in a row for Porsche Penske to take home the overall win. We'll talk about that more and kind of give you the winners of each of the different 4 divisions that ran over the weekend and tell you the winners and so on and so forth. So join us coming up this Saturday, starting at 9 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Central Time, and you can do that on CRN Live by searching that on YouTube if you are not in East Central Alabama and can listen to us on the flagship radio station we're on out there. But we're not quite done, because I want to mention this, and this right now is a rumor, but it's coming from The Athletic, and The Athletic generally has been a very reliable source when it comes to this. They miss on a couple of things, but for the most part, they're pretty good on it. Since 2018, we have split Charlotte Motor Speedway. We, of course, have the Coca-Cola 600, runs on the tri-oval, 1.5-mile tri-oval there, and it is a fantastic, wonderful thing that is kicked off by the pomp and circumstance of us really being able to recognize the military and, of course, the men and women who have gave their lives in the service of our country in whatever branch of the military that they're in. And the Coca-Cola 600 is a fantastic thing. It's also the longest race that NASCAR runs, one of the longest races, period, that isn't an endurance race, if you want to put it that way. In the fall, starting in 2018, they decided to change things up a little bit. And the last couple of cars, we kind of understood why they did it, because the 1.5 mile tri-oval kind of racing had gotten kind of stale, almost boring to a certain extent.
Yeah, it was stagnant.
So, and a lot of that, I think, has to do with the older car, that older generation car. It really wasn't set up for that way. Its strength wasn't there. It was a much better car for the road courses, truth be told, and for short tracks. And it is weird how cars kind of go back and forth like that. So, but like I said, 2018, they decide, okay, we're going to split it. We're not going to do the tri-oval at Charlotte anymore. We're going to take the fall race, which is in the chase/playoffs, depending on what year you're talking, and we're going to put it on something called the Roval. The Charlotte Roval, a hybrid, if you will. It's somewhat similar to Daytona, if you want to put it that way, in the fact that they took the 1.5 mile tri-oval, built a road course in the middle, and said, here we go. We kind of got a picture here of at least one portion of it that producer John's going to show here in just a moment. You and I had the chance a few years ago to go up there, and we got a very unique look at this race because we were sitting in not the suites, not in the press box. We actually were able to sit in the townhomes. I can't think of it, condos. In turn number 1 of the NASCAR track. And I got to admit, that was a pretty cool deal to be able to sit there and look at the track that way. But the truth of the matter is that you and I have never been, correct me if I'm wrong, completely sold on the idea of the Roval.
I wasn't when it got initially announced. And then when I actually put my eyes on it, that just solidified it, honestly, because I was like, what is this? What is this?
Here's the thing. If any track is going to do it, if any track operating team is going to do it, it's going to be Speedway Motorsports. We know that. They're more than willing to try anything at least once and throw it up against the wall just to see if it'll stick. And Humpy Wheeler was so well known for that. And congratulations to him, unfortunately, posthumously, for being inducted into the NASCAR Hall of Fame. Something else we'll talk about a bit more here on the big show coming up this weekend. But this, I think, kind of was a bridge too far. And this is that argument that you and I have had. We had it about Bristol, too, because why in the world are you taking a perfectly good track like Bristol Motor Speedway and throwing tons of dirt on it to try and make it a dirt track and spending all the money and the labor to do that? And then you got to spend all the money and the labor to take all that stuff off to get it ready for other racing later on in the year. How much money did Speedway Motorsports spend upon trying to get this road course configuration done? And for what? And again, you and I noticed it was lackluster. It was severely lacking as far as the racing then. But I'm here to tell you the strengths switched. And that's the good and the bad part. The good part about how the strength going into this current generation of car came in is the fact that this style of track, Charlotte Motor Speedway under Coca-Cola 600 forms, is fantastic racing. You look at Kansas, you look at Vegas, heck, you even look at Texas. Texas Motor Speedway's kind of come to life. The 1.5 mile tracks, Homestead, Miami, which is not a tri-oval, has come to life. It's why we're going back to Chicagoland as opposed to doing a Chicago street course race. This is the strength of this car. Unfortunately, somewhat at the expense of short track and road course racing. But they realize, and I think this is why exactly they have decided to do this whenever they make the announcement, they say anytime in the next few weeks, that they want to go back to the oval. And they're talking about doing it this year. They're talking about scrapping the Roval this year, even though it was already announced that we were going to be doing the Roval this year when they released the 2026 schedule.
At the end of the day, it tells me that the ears that need to be listening are finally listening.
Agreed.
It tells me they're finally listening because you have a considerably considerably better product with this specific car on the intermediate tracks. Considerably better.
Absolutely.
Yes, it's at the expense of short tracks, the other road courses, and dare I say, even the super speedways now. It's at that expense.
Yeah,
But
it's strange to say because let's face it, what used to be the restrictor plate, now the tapered spacer, it does tend to bunch the field together. But yeah, to a certain extent, it's somewhat lacking for other reasons. Let's put it that way.
right, and it's a positive step because you basically scrap 2 road courses to gain 2 intermediates, Chicago and Charlotte.
All right, so we have the Pro. We're going back to the strength of what this car brings.
Sure.
And again, the last couple of Coca-Cola 600s have been fantastic. We know about the racing at the Kansases and the Vegases and so on and so forth. So we're going to get that in the chase, which means now I think we're back to, I've forgotten how many 1.5 mile tracks are in the chase. I'd have to go back and look at it. But we're multiple, I'm sure.
It is
Kansas and Charlotte now, I know. Vegas is in there. Homestead, Miami is in there.
Kansas, Vegas, Charlotte. Kansas, Vegas, Charlotte, Homestead.
Okay. 4 of the 10 races are this kind of racing. We've seen where teams have really put a lot of effort into their 1.5 mile package. How do you think Jimmy Johnson won 5 straight Cup Series titles? That Hendrick Motorsports team really concentrated on the 1.5 mile race package, and that 48 car benefited from it. So we're back kind of to that situation as we're also back to the chase, because now you've got 10 races and 4 of them are this style of track. If there is one team that figures it out this year, they have the inside track, one would think, towards winning the 2026 title.
The path is there. There's no doubt about it.
But I do say that it is a Pro because, again, that's the best racing we got right now with this car.
By far.
Here's the con. For what NASCAR likes to tout, their drivers being the best drivers on the face of the earth, you can argue it as much as you want, but NASCAR's touted it in the past. I'm just repeating what they said. Shouldn't they, over a 10 race period, have to drive an example pretty much of every track that they use throughout the course of the year? Meaning, here's the con. There's no road course of any kind this year in the chase. And that, to me, is a con.
Yeah, I see your point, but I see your point in that. But with it being your chase, your championship run, you chase your championship run. I would want the best product for the best overall race, not necessarily for specific disciplines or to find out who's better than who where. Because they're at a point right now, if you ask me, they've got to get the product back versus the discipline.
Okay, I can see where you're going with that.
They got to get the product back.
Well, and to me, though, they're in the perfect position now because we're down to 3 dedicated road courses, if you really want to get down to it this year. And that's Coda, and that's Watkins Glen and Sonoma. And the first 2, Coda and Watkins Glen, they've moved Watkins Glen out of the latter part of the year and moved it into the spring, which should make for beautiful pictures up there in New York. But to me, this is the way that when I years ago had been kind of touting the idea of expanding out and adding another road course, it was because we were doing the 36 race season that we're in right now and splitting it into thirds, basically. First 12 races, make sure you got a road course in the first 12 races. Second 12 races, put a road course there. Final 12 races, preferably in the chase in this case, have a third road course. I'm not saying they need to add a fourth road or even a fifth or more road course. I enjoy road course racing, but that's a personal opinion. I think 3 is a great number. Put 1 in each third of the season. Make sure that final third is somewhere in the chase. That's all I'm asking.
Yeah, I mean, you could split it up into thirds. It's doable. Say it that way.
Mm-hmm.
And then, whatever the fourth one is, the Fantasyland street race that they apparently got to run.
Yeah, apparently.
Squeeze it in somewhere in the summertime.
Yeah. I think you and I are both in agreement. This deal on the San Diego Naval Base is going to be a 1-year only deal because this is the 250th birthday of the United States.
Yeah.
Where else they might go, I don't know.
I don't know. And I'll still say if they don't have Ed Harris and Tom Cruise there using lines out of Top Gun Maverick, something's wrong.
I agree.
A prime opportunity.
I agree wholeheartedly.
But it's just three's enough. Have Coda the first part of the year, put Watkins Glen back in the fall where it should be, and then have Sonoma in the summer, or even flip Sonoma and run Green Sonoma, and put Coda more towards the middle, not when it's 752,000 degrees in Texas in the summer.
That's the tricky part. Would be scheduling Coda somewhere in that middle 12 if you're going to take my way of looking at it, because I mean, you were out there for the All-Star race when it was held at Texas Motor Speedway. That was in late May, and you said you were scorching.
That was in actually early June, and it was. I recall the thermometer on the rental car reading 107.
We don't need that.
No.
Nobody needs that. Nobody wants that. That's why Talladega got moved off of their midsummer move for their second race of the year, and it got moved to October. So we didn't have people baking in the stands and in the infield. You don't need that either.
I can recall being on pit road when I was a kid back in 1995, back when things weren't so stringent. Was on pit road, and a thermometer got shot on the asphalt in the middle of July, and I recall it being 148 on pit road.
I believe every single degree of that. So, and here's the other side. If you insist upon having multiple road/street course races, do us a favor, drop the street course side of things. Go back to any myriad number of dedicated road courses. If you want to go to someplace new, go talk to the people at Road Atlanta, go talk to Virginia International Raceway, Summit Point, any of those. But don't forget, you've raced at viable courses called Road America and Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course 2. So if you need to do 4 or more, remember them, NASCAR.
I would go personally, considering I've been to both of them, I would go Barber before Mid-Ohio.
I see your point, but I think the problem that we have with that is the fact that we've got that big track that's about 40 miles away from it called Talladega. And I doubt seriously they're going to give this area of Alabama 3 races in a year. I just don't see it. And I hate to say that because I personally would love to see it. I just don't see them doing it.
They give it to North Carolina.
Of course, that's their home territory too.
True, but I mean, roundabout's fair play.
Again, would I love to see it? Yes. I just don't think it'll happen. But you mentioned it, and it's a great addition onto that list because there are so many viable road courses that we could go to that are dedicated racing road courses all across this country. Go there.
And the reason that I use Barber over Mid-Ohio is because of sheer facility.
Sure.
Facility, the amenities of the facility.
Mm-hmm.
Because from a facility standpoint and the amenities of the facility, Barber is double the size of Mid-Ohio.
Well, there you go. I don't know. We'll see. Time will tell how this all will work out. Time will tell whether or not that report in The Athletic is actually true. If it is, I got to admit, I don't have a problem with it. I'm more than thrilled. I'll state it right up front. I'm more than thrilled to be able to say, yes, we're going back to the best kind of racing that this particular generation of car can do. Pretty happy about it. Coming up this weekend, big show, regular time, 9 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Central Time. Again, if you'd like to find it, go onto YouTube, search CRN Live. You can check it out there. That way it covers everybody who's listening to us on Spotify, or whether we're on the Real Talk 99.5 or Jocks 94.5 TV YouTube pages. That way you know where to find it. Big show, 2 hours, talking about all kinds of motorsports. We are going to talk about Bowman Gray and the Clash, because that is where NASCAR's Cup season is supposed to kick off this weekend. We'll also talk about things coming in Formula One with testing. We'll recap the Rolex 24 Hours and the Chili Bowl, which we didn't get to do this last weekend because we had it off, and so much more. Join us then. Our thanks to producer Molly for making sure that things work on the Talk 99.5 and Jocks pages. Thanks to producer John for getting everything set up on CRN Live and for Spotify. And for Matt, my co-host, keep taking care of that voice, okay, man? All right. See you on Saturday, and we'll see all of you on Saturday as well. Don't forget to subscribe. You can comment down below as well. And we will meet up with you again on YouTube, CRN Live, coming up Saturday, 9 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Central. Join us then, won't you?
You've been listening to Crossed Flags, a racing podcast. For more content like this, subscribe to CRN Live on YouTube, and you'll be set to catch the 2-hour live show every Saturday morning at 9 Eastern, 8 Central.
This has been a presentation of the Championship Racing Network.